on. What do you think you're doing?
We're trying to start the show, sailor.
What is it, hold it?
No, it's one of ours. Come stand and give us a shout.
But it is not this commercial, Mac.
No, it's BBC, Mac.
Good.
Right, that's it. She's off. Right, get her in.
This is the BBC. Hip, hip. Oh, what fun we're having. Later on this evening, I'll be going home. But first, we present a special tribute to the life and work of Spike Milligan, the well-known typing error. We begin in the year 1951, where a young, fresh-faced John Sargent, wearing ankle-length short trousers, is tuned to the BBC Home Service. Young John's ear has been glued to the wireless all night. His parents would often punish him in this form. But he's listening to Mr. Milligan's revolutionary new and highly esteemed Goon Show.
Here, Echoes, hold these 3 red sticks of dynamite.
Oh, wait. One of these isn't a stick of dynamite.
You sure about that, Echoes?
One of them was a stick of Blackpool rock. Of course I'm sure. Just a minute. Of course, I could be wrong, you know.
Like most kids in the 1950s, I didn't just want to listen to the Goon Show, I wanted to be in it. You fool, you crazy fool, you.
War! I must write my memoirs. The day war broke out, Winston said to me, "This has got to stop, Bloody. We can't go on meeting like this, you know."
Rejoin the story in 1942, a critical year for Britain, with British generals slaving away at their autobiographies.
Let me get round this thing.
I'm standing sideways. Where are you, Burke?
Now then, this is my plan of attack.
It looks like a nail.
No, it's attack.
Spike changed people's view of British humour. His sort of joke became a recognisable export brand. And who better to show it off than the Beatles? In New York, for the first time, they sounded positively goonish.
John thought of the name Beatles, and he'll tell you about it now. It means Beatles, doesn't it? You know, that's just a name. You know, like shoe.
Yeah, the shoe. The shoes. You see, we could have been called the Shoes for all you know.
When John Lennon was asked how the Beatles found America, he famously replied, "Turn left at Greenland." That crazy, traditional British sense of humour. Yes, it was a tradition going all the way back to the Goon Show. Inspired and largely written by Spike, it was amazingly successful for 9 years. Even Prince Charles was a fan.
Right, now, what do you think of that trip?
I like it.
Well, I didn't like it either.
Just because you got bigger legs than I have? You think you can tell me what to do? Yeah.
Look, I will tell you one thing, and one thing only. Before we finish, I'm in charge.
It's all your fault.
Not my fault.
Yeah. I'll get my own back on him if it's the last thing I do. Yes, I will.
Spike might have said that's a load of old monarchs, but for us tonight, Spike rules okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
When you're feeling low down and you can't find romance, leap into a dustbin and dance. When your friends forsake you and you can't find romance, jump into a dustbin and and die.
And now Mr. Paul Merton will play Mr. Spike Milligan playing a newsreader in a Q sketch. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Merton.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming this evening. I was sitting at home earlier and I thought to myself, shall I wear something unusual tonight? And I thought, no, I'll just come as I am. Good evening. 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 So there we are, 37 good evenings where we used to have one. That shows you the level to which the English good evening, along with the pound, has fallen. Do you know it takes 17 English good evenings for one American good evening? And 33 and a half English good evenings for one German Guten Abend. However, in Tunisia, you can still get 2 good evenings for one hello sailor. Thank you.
In a little town where I fellow. He's the leader of the village choir, and his voice is warm and mellow. He drives a fruit cart around the street, and everybody knows it. He doesn't sing or rave about his fruit, he simply blows it. Sing it all day long. It's better than any song. Though it isn't very pretty, you've got to admit it's cute. So all together, let it go. It certainly comes to stay. Hear him say, hey, fruits in season plenty there is, apples, plums, and the old raspberries. Today.
The Goon Show is well known for its bizarre use of sound effects. Mr. John Sargent, who heard the Goon Show's sounds with his ears, will now tell us about them through his face.
When the Goons exploded onto the airwaves in 1951, sound effects on radio were limited to a few rattling teacups and hobnail boots on gravel. That must have really confused listeners to the coronation. A lot of Spike's sound effects were created live in front of the audience. And tonight, our studio managers are Miss Kathy Burke and Mr. Paul Merton. Have you ever been irritated by the sound of the bloke in the flat upstairs dropping his boots on the floor as he gets ready for bed? This is Spike's version. He may then decide to empty his trouser pockets. We don't have time for the other pocket. In the Goons, characters were always being examined by doctors. Patients were constantly rolling up their trouser legs. And being tested for loose teeth. And on one occasion, a dodgy doctor grabs a large shovel and invites the patient to place his head on an anvil for a free diagnosis. Aha, just like I thought! A fractured skull! That's how Spike changed British humour. Overstatement instead of understatement. He was often extremely adventurous, using simple devices. He took the sound of someone knocking on a door to create one of the best radio gags ever. Now, we're going to try to recreate it for you now. Neddy Seagoon has been sent to find a certain tea house in China. and he has to use a pre-arranged secret knock.
On arrival at the tea house, as instructed, I knocked 6,000 times.
Yes?
Tea house of the August moon?
No.
Now to the characters. Each episode was based on the misadventures of Neddy Seagoon.
Enter a short, fat, round blob.
Hello, folks. My name is Neddy Seagoon. I come from... I come from mixed parentage. One male and one female. And that's the way it should be.
Neddy would always be conned into carrying out some ludicrous task, like draining all the water from Loch Ness by drinking it, or climbing Mount Everest from the inside. The conning was usually done by the show's resident villains, a poverty-stricken French wreck, Count Moriarty.
Sir Prissy Knuckles, if you kill me, I promise you'll never take me alive.
And his mentor, the suave British cad, Hercules Grip-Type Thin.
Keep still, Moriarty. Do you want us both out of this suit? Moriarty, don't look now. But it's the man who makes the news at 10 look like a current affairs program.
Oh, we'll be rich. You grab his legs, I'll grab his wallet.
No, dear. We'll follow him back to ITV. That's where the money is.
Thin is a public school-educated swine who, since the Goon Show ended, overcame his taste for petty crime to become the chairman of Enron. Under Thin's careful guidance, Moriarty is now bald, deaf, and worthless, and has played the male lead in several dirty postcards. Waiting in the wings to help Neddy was one of the show's most popular characters, Blue Bottle.
Yeah, enter Blue Bottle. Pauses for audience applause. Yeah, not a sausage. Spike's defiant Napoleon pose, but trousers fold out and ruin effect.
Blue Bottle's best friend is the original Goon, the famous Eccles, played by Spike.
Hello there.
Eccles is a good-natured idiot who regularly defeats the laws of logic with his own childlike reasoning.
What time is it, Eccles?
Just a minute. I got it written down here on a piece of paper. A nice man wrote the time down for me this morning.
Then why do you carry it around with you, Eccles?
Well, if anyone asks me the time, I can show it to them.
Wait a minute. Eccles, my good man?
What is it, fellow?
It's written on this bit of paper. What is 8 o'clock is written?
I know that, my good fellow. That's right. When I asked the fellow to write it down, it was 8 o'clock.
Then, supposing when somebody asks you the time, it isn't 8 o'clock.
Well, then I don't show it to them.
Well, how do you know when it's 8 o'clock?
I got it written down on a piece of paper.
Both Blue Bottle and Eccles would fall foul of dynamite and get blown up on a regular basis. Explosions of a different variety would be heard coming from the nether regions of another regular favourite, Major Dennis Bloodknock.
Oh, will I never be free of them? Quick, nurse the screens and bring a new nightshirt.
Bloodknock was martyr to indigestion. According to Spike, his trousers are now in the internal combustion section of the Science Museum.
No! filthy swine!
A devout coward, Bloodnot represents the disgraced and incompetent British Army officers Spike saw while growing up in India. The whole show was wonderfully subversive. War heroes were revered, but definitely not war itself. Also featured in each show were two rapidly disintegrating pensioners, saxophone-playing Minnie Bannister and Henry Crumb.
Min. Min. Wake up, Min.
What is it, Henry?
There's a man on the television who's listening to us on the wireless.
That's because there's nothing good on television. Ask him who he is.
You, sir, she wants to know who are you?
My name is John Sargent.
What a memory you have, sir.
We interrupt this programme to tell you that this is an official BBC interruption. And now, we interrupt this programme to tell you that the interruption to the interruption is over. Good night.
Spike Milligan's comedy had an enormous impact on a whole generation of comedians. The technical term being they nicked his material, and no one was more culpable than those wacky pythons.
I wrote a series called the Q series, which is the series that the Monty Python team copied. They copied every style that we did in that. And mind you, the difference was they had 6 wonderful performers, and I didn't in my show. I only had me and some second bananas.
Here to answer those charges is top Monty Python, Terry Jones.
Well, Spike was quite right. We stole a lot from him. I mean, for a start, we stole his producer, Ian McNaughton. We stole his concept of not finishing sketches, but letting them flow on into the next sketch. We stole his idea of doing away with punchlines. But we never stole any of Spike's material. I mean, we wanted to do our own thing and make it new. And if we knew Spike had already done it, we wouldn't have been interested in repeating it. Mark you, if we didn't know Spike had already done something, our ideas were eerily similar. When we were doing the second series of Python, we were writing the second series of Python, Mike Palin and I were sitting in my garden one hot summer afternoon trying to think of a sketch, and we just weren't having any ideas at all. And the doorbell went, and I went to the door, and there was a guy there, and he said, do you want some manure, sir? And I said, well, not really, no. He said, it's good heavy droppings. So I said, well, I really don't want any. He said, look, it's a hot day, I've got a whole van load, can't you take some of it off me or something? Anyway, we thought this might make a sketch, so we wrote a sketch for the second series of Python, in which there's a smart dinner party going on in an apartment. And the doorbell goes, the host goes to the door, and there's John Cleese with a tin bath. And he says, dung, sir? What do you mean, dung? He says, it's your book of the month club, dung, sir. You get it free with every 4th book, he says. So anyway, about 2 weeks ago, when we knew we were doing this tribute, I suddenly remembered I'd got an old Q5 script sitting in a drawer that I hadn't looked at. And I'd had it sitting there for about 30 years. So I thought, well, I'd have a look at it. And this script dates from April 1969. So this is a year and a half before we wrote our dung sketch. And Spike had already done it. Spike arrives at the door. Mrs. Fuchs?
Yes?
Parcel, special delivery.
Ooh, I wonder what it is.
It's on the label here, madam. It's horse manure.
Horse manure? I didn't order any horse manure. You better take it back to the horse. There must be some mistake.
Well, there's no mistake about horse manure, madam. I knew what it was the moment they put it in the van.
No, I'm not having it.
Well, it's nothing to do with me. Well, I'm just the postman.
I'll be glad to get rid of it, if you must know. We're freezing to death having to drive with a van with a window open.
Where's it from?
It's on here, madam, with the compliments of Her Majesty the Queen, Buckingham Palace.
Ooh, Queen?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, John, a great honour has been visited upon us.
What is it?
You'll never guess.
The question to ask yourselves is this. Would you accept an unsolicited parcel of horse manure from the Queen? I realise that Spike must have gone to his grave thinking we'd lifted that sketch from him. But we didn't, Spike. Honestly, you are our inspiration and you are our mentor in comedy, but we never nicked your material. Anyway, here's 3 highlights of Spike on television which could have fitted into any Python show.
Prosperity. For electricity had come to the natives of the Isle of Scront, as these films will show.
Here we see the full benefits that electricity brings to the island and its peoples.
And 4's Cambridge of Harrington. They're getting ready now, and they're off. The inside lane was making the game. Then Cambridge with Thomas to the back marker. Now they're all coming into the last 50 metres now, and it's still Harrington. Cambridge and Brandy. It's neck and neck. Neck and neck as they're about to come up to the stairs. There's Brandy. I think it was a bird. Yes, Brandy, Thomas, no, it's Brandy. It's Thomas. It's Brandy, Thomas. No, I think it was Brandy, but it's a bird out second and third.
It's a great day for the grandmother hurling finals here at Beachy Head. In the last 3 eliminations, over 100 grandmothers were successfully thrown out to sea, out of which only 2 returned back in the penalty time of 1.5 minutes. Let's go over to last year's champion hurler and grandmother.
Clench your teeth. Here we go, pop.
She's clenching her teeth now, and
flatten out.
He's instructed her now to flatten out over the rocks when she's about to go. Now.
Ready, dear?
I'm ready.
I think he's ready now. Looking at his watch, he's...
And now tonight, for the very first time, live in front of a captive audience, we are going to give you a unique experience. Spike's Q sketches as never seen before. This Sunday, the 3rd after Pontefract, the parable of the Good Samaritan will be read by Police Constable Sergeant Palin.
And I saith unto you, evening all. And it came to pass that a man, Jewish, 5'3", was proceeding along the Jerusalem-Jericho highway, but he exceeded not the speed limit. Then he pulleth up, for he had need of a bush, an offence that can bring a fine in 30 days. There springeth out on him 3 thieves, who beateth out of him the crap. And verily he flaketh out. Then came night, lighting up time, 7:23. And the snow falleth on him, and verily by morning thou couldst strike matches on them. And many travellers seeing him pass by on the outside lane, saying he must be as a newt. But there cometh the Samaritan, and seeing him flaked out, he bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and vinegar. And the victim screameth, saying, Hast thou never heard of elastoplast? Then the Samaritan setteth him upon his own ass. Registration, are you? 1, 2. And he taketh him to an inn where they had a good night. And on the morrow he giveth the innkeeper twopence, which was later brought up in evidence against him. Evening all.
Good evening. We thought there was one royal interview the palace could never allow. We assumed she wouldn't be able to talk to us, but we were wrong. She's here with us tonight, the Queen's chicken. Joined by the keeper of the royal eggs, Sergeant Herbert Scrackle. Good evening, Sergeant.
Good evening, Sergeant.
You have developed an extraordinary ability to understand chickens.
Yes, I have. I've developed an extraordinary ability to understand chickens, as you just said. I mean, what you do is you have to put your hand in the right place, of course, you see. You know...
Could you demonstrate this extraordinary ability?
Yes.
Will you demonstrate?
Oh, yes, that's right, yes, yeah. Well, what I do is I feel under the sort of the gronix here, technical part of the chicken, and steady there, good. And basically, you see, her clucks, you see, go up my arm, and translate into human speech, come out my mouth. So basically, everything she says comes out of my mouth.
Well, I mean, has it said anything?
No, you haven't asked her anything, have you? You can't expect a chicken going around talking to itself. I mean, it'd become a laughing stock. And in chicken stock, probably. Go on, ask her something.
I've got to ask her a question.
Ask her a question.
It is her, right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, go on in.
Okay.
You're psyching yourself up for it?
Yep.
Yes. You're doing very well.
Okay, thank you.
Have you started?
No, I'm just getting myself in the mood.
All right. I'll be here if you need me.
Is she ready?
She's ready. Ready for the question.
Right, thank you. Why did you cross the road? I don't know, it's something about... I feel a bit silly asking this question.
You feel silly? How do you think she feels? She was expecting Jenny Bond.
Cough, cough, in, out, in, out, in. Sit. Look, I'm very sorry.
Is it bad, Doctor?
It's worse than that. I'm extraordinarily sorry.
Oh, Doctor, please, you must tell me. I must know the truth, Doctor.
Lady Teasley.
Yes.
I'm afraid your husband was absolutely correct. You have suffered a case of extraordinarily sex change-itis.
That's the third time this week, Doctor. What causes it?
Elephants.
You mean I've got elephants?
Absolutely, and worst thing, you've got them lower down, which is much more expensive.
Are you sure I've got elephants?
Absolutely, I'm sure. Look at this.
What is it?
Elephants.
It's a sample of my blood.
It's a sample of blood with mainly elephants in it. You see what I mean?
Spike joked that the Second World War gave him a career, but his traumatic experiences left a lasting legacy of depression. There's no doubt that the goons helped people generally get over the horrors of the war, but it took a toll on Spike. Here's Stephen Tompkinson reading a particularly poignant extract from Spike's war memoirs.
1944. By January, we'd seen some heavy fighting and we were positioned in the village of Lauro. Along with 4 others, I had to take fresh batteries weighing 50 pounds and a radio set to our OP at the top of Mount Dimiano. We had to negotiate a slope, terraced for the olive trees. Crump, crump, crump. Mortars, we hit the ground. Crump, crump, crump. They stop. Why? Can they see us? We get up and go on. Crump, crump, crump. He can see us. We hit the deck. A rain of them falling around us. I cling to the ground. I'll have a fag, that's what. I'm holding a packet of Woodbines. Then there's a noise like thunder. It's right on my head. There's a high-pitched whistle in my ears. At first, I black out, and then I see red. I'm strangely dazed. I was on my front, now I'm on my back. The red was opening my eyes straight into the sun. I know if we stay here, we'll all die. I start to scramble down the hill. Next, I was at the bottom of the mountain. Next, I'm speaking to Major Jenkins. I'm crying. I don't know why. He's saying, "Get that wound dressed." I said, "What wound?" I'd been hit on the right-hand side of my leg. In a forward dressing station, I'm given sweet tea, 2 small white pills, and a sticking plaster is put on the wound. I start to sway and am put on a stretcher. On a Red Cross truck, we pass our artillery lines. I jump at each explosion. I was labelled battle fatigue at 144 CCS and sent to see a psychiatrist. He told me that I was going to get better. But a week later, I was back with the battery. How I got back, I don't know. This was a time of my life that I was very demoralised. I was not really me anymore. I jumped every time that our guns fired. I started stammering. To add to my misery, I was court-martialed by the major. Owing to my unreliable conduct, I was to relinquish my stripe. Well, I suppose in World War I, the bastard would have had me shot. Well, he'd had it in for me for a long time. Well, I'd been a morale booster for the boys, organising dances and concerts, always trying to keep a happy atmosphere, something he couldn't do. All this despite the fact that the discharge certificate from the 144 CCS stated, "This man must be rested behind the lines for a period to stable his condition." I took the tranquilizers that they had given me. All they did was turn me into a zombie.
Death Wish, written 1944 in Italy. Bury me anywhere, somewhere near a tree, some place where a horse will graze and gallop over me. Bury me somewhere near a stream. When she floods her banks, I'll give her thanks for reaching out to me. So bury me in my childhood scene, but please don't burn me in Golders Green.
Spike's wartime memoirs provoked strong reactions. Here is Spike's response to a particular reader's complaint about his book, Monty.
Dear Stephen, questions, questions, questions. If you are so disappointed in my book, Monty, so am I. I might be more disappointed than you because I spent a year collecting material for it and it was a choice of having it made into a book or a suit. There are lots of one-liners in the book, but then when the German army are throwing bloody great lumps of hot iron at you, one only has time for one-liners. In fact, the book should really consist of the following. Oh, fuck.
Spike's battles with authorities started in wartime and spilled over into peacetime as he continued to rage at the BBC. Here's a typical example of his spats with the management. From Spike Milligan to Charles Curran, BBC Director General, 21st of May, 1975.
Dear Sir Charles, the BBC programme Let's Join In want to do a fairy tale of mine, and in it they want to excise the word God. They say its policy principle does not allow the mingling of fact and fiction. Anyhow, I cannot contribute to such stupidity, and I have refused to allow the word God to be cut out. I am writing to you because I thought you might change this silly rule. I hope you are well, Charles, and all goes well for you and your wife and your horse. Love, light and peace, Spike Milligan.
Charles Curran replied to Spike Milligan on the 5th of June, 1975.
Dear Spike, Let's Join In is a schools programme intended for infants, and the producer wanted to avoid conveying the impression to them that God existed on the same level of reality as goblins, witches and giants. Neither you nor I believe that. There is no policy against mingling fact and fiction. Only in this instance, a wish not to confirm some children's belief that God and his powers belong to the world of magic. As a believer, I think you'll recognise that this is a serious point, and I do hope that you will reconsider your decision not to allow the broadcast to take place. Yours ever, Charles Curran.
Part 2, God versus the Goblins. My dear Charles, I believe in goblins and God. I think the combination is absolutely marvellous. Of course, I'd like to get it very clear that all my goblins are Roman Catholics. That is why when you go into confession, if you look on the floor, you will find a long, thin ladder leading up to the confessional window. I refuse to give in, Charles, but I am sure God will forgive you for not believing in goblins. I must go now. There is a fairy tapping on my window pane. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I think it's a Protestant, so I won't open it. Love, life, and peace. P.S. I will give in, but only because you are all so unenlightened. I will allow the word God to be stricken from the record. But don't forget, Charles, on the great day when God says, "Who told you to remove my name from that story?" you know who I will be pointing at.
May I clarify? In that bucket is my plaintiff, Harry Seacombe.
All of him?
Yes.
What's he doing?
Nothing. He's lying quietly in the bottom. May I elucidate?
If you must, but I must warn you it can cause blindness.
Thank you. My lord, on the 1st of April, which is by way of being a Jewish holiday in Morecambe and Wise, my client attended Steam Dick's Turkish bath. There he was shown to a chamber, stripped, and left to steam.
To steam?
Steam, Your Honor.
You're not going to tell me a tree fell on him?
No, my lord, something far worse. Something far worse. A faulty valve forced the heat in his chamber to rise to some 800 degrees centigrade. The melting point of the human body.
Good Lord.
An assistant rushed in, but alas, too late. Mr. Seacombe now lay in a puddle on the floor. The assistant, being a sensitive man, mopped him up with a sponge and wrung him out into a bucket. That bucket.
Silence, I will not have under-rehearsed mumbling in this court. Can we see Mr. Seacombe?
Constable, will you pour out the plaintiff?
And you are suing for negligence?
No, we're not suing for negligence. We're suing for short measure, my lord.
Not all Spike's letters were complaining. This is what he wrote to Cleo Lane. Dear Cleo, you were fantastic last night. I was going to send you champagne, but after the way you sparkled it was pointless. Love, light, and peace. P.S. It was also expensive. P.P.S. My regards to that man who conducts the band for you. Ladies and gentlemen, the John Dankworth Quintet and Dame Cleo Lane.
Love me or leave me and let me be lonely. You won't believe me, but I want you only. I'd rather be lonely than happy with somebody. I don't know why I love you like I do. I don't know why, I just do. Don't know why you thrill me like you do. Don't know why you just do. You never seem to want my romancing, and the only time you hold me when we're dancing. I don't know why I love you like I do. I don't know why, I just do. And the only time you hold me is when we're dancing. I don't know why I love you like I do. I don't know why, I just do. I just
And welcome to Muppet News International.
Yes, you're welcome to it.
Simultaneous translation, bringing you news and views across the language barrier.
Hello.
Are you going to tell them what I just said?
No, your secret is safe with me.
All right, here's the news. Things look grim in the outback as rebel forces continue to fight amongst themselves. First one side seems to be winning, and then the other side gets on top. And casualties have been very heavy. And strong ties between the two factions have been permanently cut. Eyebrows were raised today at the auction rooms, where a priceless antique vase came under the hammer. Rumors of a cover-up affected prices on the stock market, where woolens were hit badly, eventually plunging to an all-time low. Research continues for a missing man said by police to be dangerous and more than a little screwy. The man was known as the inventor of the pop-up toaster. Next we have old-fashioned. A newsman was attacked today by a mad English comic.
Really? We must find him.
Spike's children's poems were incredibly popular, on the Ning Nang Nong being voted #1 in a nationwide poll. His poems were all really inspired by children. Listening to them, he noted down the mispronounced and misunderstood words and the self-invention of phrases like bang clatcher, which obviously is a gun. In his own words, he explained that children are not just small Homo sapiens,
They're an entirely different species, with a secret world that only very perceptive adults have any real knowledge of. I have. Lucky me. This next poem, Round and Round, was based upon his daughter's remarks at age 6 on overhearing Spike tell her brother Sean, aged 4.5, that the world was going round.
One day, a little boy called Sean, aged 4, became profound. He asked his dad if it was true the world was going round. "Oh, yes, that's true," his daddy said. "It goes round night and day."
Then doesn't it get tired, Dad?
Young Sean was heard to say. His sister in the bath called out,
"What did Dad say? What did he?"
His dad said, "The world is going round." Said she,
"Well, it's making me giddy."
On the Ning Nang Nong, where the cows go bong, and the monkeys all say boo. There's a Nong Nang Ning, where the trees go ping, and the teapots jibber jabber joo. On the Nong Ning Nang, all the mice go clang, and you just can't catch them when they do. So it's Ning Nang Nong, cows go bong, Nong Nang Ning, trees go ping, Nong Ning Nang, the mice go clang. What a noisy place to belong is the Ning Nang Nong.
Sardines. A baby sardine saw her first submarine. She was scared and watched through a peephole. "Oh, come, come, come," said the sardine's mum. "It's only a tin full of people."
The herring is a lucky fish, from all disease inured. Should he be ill when caught at sea, immediately he's cured.
Said a tiny ant to the elephant, "Might have you tread in this clearing?" But alas, cruel fate, she was crushed by the weight of an elephant hard of hearing.
There are holes in the sky where the rain gets in, but they're ever so small. That's why rain is thin.
"Help, help," said a man, "I'm drowning." "Hang on," said a man from the shore. "Help, help," said the man, "I'm not clowning." "Yes, I know, I heard you before." "Be patient, dear man who is drowning. You see, I've got a disease. I'm waiting for a Dr. J. Browning, so do be patient, please." "How long," said the man who was drowning, "will it take for the doc to arrive?" "Not very long," said the man with the disease. "Till then, try staying alive." "Very well," said the man who was drowning, "I'll try and stay afloat by reciting the poems of Browning and other things he wrote." "Help, help," said the man who had a disease. "I suddenly feel quite ill." "Keep calm," said the man who was drowning. "Breathe deeply and lie quite still." "Oh dear," said the man with the awful disease, "I think I'm going to die." "Farewell," said the man who was drowning. Said the man with the disease, "Goodbye." So the man who was drowning drowned, and the man with the disease passed away. But apart from that and a fire in my hat, it's been a very nice day.
Dr. David Mantle went to Bintle Buntle Boo to see the tonsils of a man he hardly even knew. Dr. David Mantle got to Bintle Buntle Boo, and to the man with tonsils said, "How do you do, you do?" "Say, ah," said Dr. Mantle then, "I can't believe it's true. You have 3 tonsils hanging where there normally are 2. Only 3, the patient said. My, what shall I do? There should be 50 hanging there. Oh dear, tut-tut, oh boo. Dr. David Mantle fled from Bintle Buntle Boo. I think that man was mad, he said, and I agree. Thank you.
As As the father of modern comedy, Spike's comic heritage is assured. But if there's one person who knew him better than anyone else, it's this young chappie.
A gypsy am I. They can't follow me. A traveling boy. I follow the road. Hotels. Through the hills.
Often sitting side by side with him, slogging on the Goon Show scripts, is his friend of 50 years, Eric Sykes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Is that it? Spike and I have known each other for over 50 years. Well, we've shared an office over 50 years. We were very close. It was a small office. It was in Shepherd's Bush over a greengrocer's shop. And we had to push our way through over sacks of potatoes and cabbage and lettuce and everything. Then we had 5 steep flights of stairs to go up before we got there, but we had a secretary. Well, she was more of a typist, except that she couldn't type. Which is probably just as well, because we didn't have a typewriter. But she was very good at making tea. So every 5 minutes she'd say, "Would like a cup?" "Yeah, we all..." So she made the tea and everything. And one day I went to the toilet, and I looked there, and down in the bowl, it's full of tea leaves. She'd emptied it, and I said, "Spike." He came over and he looked there like that, and behind her was a white face of this girl like this. And she goes to pull the chain, and Spike said, "Just a minute." And Spike went, and he looked at her, he said, "You are going on a long journey." We took her for a farewell lunch just over the road, Shepherd's Bush Green, and next to the restaurant was a funeral, undertakers. And Spike did his usual. He lay down on the pavement, hands like that, knocked on the door and said, "Chop." And it's taken over 50 years for them to somebody to answer the door. Incidentally, I said to the person, you know, from the BBC, "What do you want me to do? Just come up here?" Said, "No, you know Spike probably better than anybody. Just tell them about your life together, your ups, your downs, your laughs, your fun you had, and, you know, how was it like working with the goons, and what was the favourite character?" And I said, "How long have I got?" She said, 5 minutes. Then he died. But I said, "Well, I mean, I haven't got a watch. I don't know when I've done 5 minutes." And she said, "Don't worry, we'll let you know." That's what she said. "We'll let you know when..." Anyway, so what happened is, Spike and I, one of the day, it was a sunny day, and we walked down to the BBC. And in conclusion, I would just like to mention Norma Farnes, who was Spike's manager and mother and everything. She looked after him for over nearly 40 years. When the light was shining on Spike and the laughs were there, she was in the background, in the shadows. But if somebody said something wrong about Spike, she was right there in front taking all the flack. And I'm sure that Spike would like me to mention Norma Farnes for what she's looked after me now. Thank you. She's looked after me now for 20 years, so I know her quite well. And lastly, all I would like to say, Spike, wherever you are, sleep well. You've earned it. Thank you.
Here we go. I have a letter to read out to you from His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales.
Do I kneel down for this?
I'm in enough trouble already. I'm not going to say a word.
And the Prince of Wales?
The Prince of Wales. I'm sorry I have to do this, but I know it takes a lot of impact out of it, but here we go. As someone who grew up to the sounds of the Goon Show on the steam-driven wireless, I must confess that I've been a lifelong fan of the participants in the show, and particularly of Spike Milligan.
Oh, the little grovelling bastard.
Well, OK. Anyway. And particularly of Spike Milligan, whose wonderfully original humour has always reduced me to helpless hysterics. It is...
Cripples. I know people who have been crippled in the wake of my humour. In hospital, crippled like this.
It is a... He loves you. Spike Milligan, ladies and gentlemen. Spike Milligan.
Thank you, Ed. Thanks very much. Fantastic. And that's it. Good night from me, John Sargent, and our illustrious cast. Kathy Burke, Harry Enfield, Eddie Izzard, Terry Jones, Paul Merton, Michael Palin, Stephen Tompkinson, our musicians, the John Dankworth Quintet, and, of course, Dame Cleo Lane. Thank you.
Tonight, a tribute to the late Sir Edward Elgar, whose favourite instrument was the B-flat garden hose, for which he wrote many great pieces, including Underneath the Armpits, Keep My Names Away. Right.